Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we tackle complex research and, well, make it usable, actionable even.
That's the goal.
And today, we're diving into something really fundamental. We're aiming to build essentially a user-friendly guide to your own nervous system because it's the control center, right?
Right.
For how you feel, how you connect, how you react when things get stressful.
Absolutely. And we're focusing on Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory, PVT. For a long time, we looked at stress, trauma, mostly through a psychological lens.
I think it's all in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But PVT really shifts the focus. It shows us the biological machinery underneath it all. The core idea, and it's a big one, is that your body's current physiological state actually sets the limits for what behaviors and even what feelings are available to you in that moment.
Okay, hold on. That's huge. So if I'm feeling, say, completely stuck or overwhelmed, it's not necessarily a character flaw.
Yeah.
It's my biology literally not finding a path to safety.
That's a really good way to put it. Your biology is responding to perceived cues, and that response dictates the options.
Wow. Okay, so let's get this map laid out.
How?
We need to understand the architecture first, right? The nuts and bolts of the vagus nerve, how evolution shaped our internal safety system.
Precisely. We'll look at the evolutionary layers.
Then we'll break down the three main states the theory talks about. I think they're safe, danger, and life threat. Something like that.
Yeah, we'll use the terms ventral vagal, sympathetic, and dorsal vagal, but those capture the essence.
Okay. And crucially, we need to understand the process that flips the switches between these states. Porges called it neuroception.
Neuroception. That unconscious scanning for safety or danger, it's key.
Got it. All right, let's start with the basics, the autonomic nervous system, the ANS, right? So most of us learn the simple version. Sympathetic is gas pedal, parasympathetic is brake, fight or flight versus rest and digest.
Yeah, and that's, well, it's not wrong, but it's incomplete. PVT invites us to see the ANS as much more than just a system sending orders out to your organs. It's really a dynamic two-way street, a constant feedback loop.
So it's not just my brain telling my heart what to do. My heart is talking back.
Talking back, reporting in. However you want to phrase it. Porges really highlighted that, surprisingly, maybe up to 80% of the nerve fibers in the vagus nerve, a major part of the ANS, are afferent.
Afferentin, meaning going to the brain.
Exactly. Carrying information from your organs, your gut, your heart, your lungs, back up to the brain stem.
80%.
Yeah.
That's way more than I thought. So my stomach isn't just digesting, it's sending status reports. Like, all clear down here, or uh-oh, something's wrong.
That's precisely the idea of bidirectional regulation. Your brain is constantly getting this stream of data about your internal state. And crucially, that state is your heart racing, is your breathing shallow, is your gut tense. That state dynamically shapes brain function.
Meaning it affects my thoughts, my emotions.
Everything. Your ability to think clearly, to feel empathy, to engage socially, it's all constrained by the signals coming up from your body. If the signals screen danger, well, higher brain functions kind of take a back seat. Survival comes first.
Okay, that makes sense. Which leads us to the vagus nerve itself. It's not just one thing, is it? PVT talks about two vagal systems.
Yeah, this is where the evolutionary perspective is so powerful. Porges pointed out there are really two distinct vagal circuits, differing in their evolutionary origin and their structure. First, there's the older one, the primitive system.
Okay.
This is linked to the unmyelinated vagus nerve fibers. Think older wiring, slower communication. It originates in a part of the brainstem called the dorsal motor nucleus of the vagus, or the BVC.
And this is the system we share with reptiles?
Reptiles, amphibians, fish, non-mammalian vertebrates, it's the ancient circuit.
So what does it do? Is this the freeze response?
It's the biological basis for that kind of extreme shutdown, yes.
Yeah.
Think about a lizard playing dead when cornered. That's the DVC in action. It promotes immobility, a kind of metabolic conservation. It's a very primitive, passive coping strategy. When fight or flight aren't options, it basically slows everything way down.
Okay, ancient slow shutdown response. Got it. But then mammals came along.
And evolution added an upgrade. This is the mammalian system, the ventral vagal complex, or VVC. This system uses myelinated vagal fibers.
Myelinated?
Yeah.
Like insulated wires. Faster signals.
Exactly. Myelin is like fatty insulation, allowing nerve signals to travel much, much faster and more precisely. This VVC originates a bit higher up in the brainstem, in the nucleus ambiguus, the NA.
And the speed? That's important.
It's critical. This myelinated vagus allows for incredibly rapid and fine-tuned control over heart rate, among other things. This rapid regulation is what Porges termed the vagal brake.
The vagal brake, I like that image. It sounds like control, like being able to slow down quickly.
That's exactly what it is. A strong vagal brake means your heart rate can slow down quickly after a stressor, or even adjust subtly moment by moment. You're not stuck in high gear. It reflects resilience, the ability to engage and then disengage the stress response efficiently.
And this system, the BVC, is tied to feeling safe and social.
Yes, this is the physiological foundation of what Porges calls the social engagement system.
Okay, now connect the dots for me. How does this faster nerve pathway link our internal state to, like, talking to people? That seems like a leap.
It's pretty amazing, actually. The myelinated vagus, originating in the nucleus ambiguus, doesn't just regulate the heart and lungs. That same brain region, the NA, also controls muscles in the face and head.
Which muscles?
Muscles involved in facial expression, vocalization, the tone and rhythm of your voice, and even tiny muscles in your middle ear that help you tune in to human voices.
Wait, so the nerve pathway that calms my heart is physically linked to the one that lets me smile or hear someone properly?
Yes, it's an integrated circuit, the brain-face-heart circuit. These systems evolved together in mammals to support social connection. When your VVC is active when you feel safe, your vagal brake is on, calming your body. Simultaneously, your facial muscles can express warmth, your voice has more melody, and those middle ear muscles, what do?
They subtly adjust to filter out low-frequency background noise, think rumbling sounds, potential threats, and amplify the frequencies of the human voice. You are literally biologically tuned to connect. That explains so much, like why, when I'm really stressed or anxious, background noise feels overwhelming, and it's hard to focus on what someone's saying.
That's your biology shifting gears.
Mm-hmm.
If your system detects threat, it disengages the vagal brake and activates the sympathetic nervous system, that mobilization state, fight or flight. Survival becomes the priority.
Okay, state number 2.
Right. And when that happens, the social engagement system goes offline. Your facial expression might flatten or tense up. Your voice might become monotone, and those middle ear muscles shift their tuning. Now they're listening for the low-frequency sounds of danger, not the nuances of friendly conversation.
So feeling unsafe physically makes it harder to connect, which probably makes you feel even less safe. It's a loop.
It absolutely can be. A visceral state of mobilization or threat actively impedes your ability to send and receive those social cues that signal safety.
Okay, so this brings us to the hierarchy. We have this amazing social engagement system, the VVC, but it's kind of conditional.
It's the preferred state, the most evolved, most efficient state.
Yeah.
But yes, it relies on cues of safety. The nervous system is constantly scanning, using that neuroception process we mentioned. If it detects danger, it doesn't hesitate to move down the evolutionary ladder.
It follows a set sequence.
Yes, a hierarchy based on what evolution figured out works for survival. Use the newest system first, VVC. If that doesn't work or isn't appropriate, mobilize, sympathetic. If that fails or is impossible, resort to the oldest defense, DVC shutdown. All right, let's walk through them again. Top of the ladder. State 1, the ventral vagal complex, VVC. Safe and social. This is our optimal state for health, growth, and connection. Functionally, it means successful internal regulation, keeping things in balance, homeostasis. It supports positive emotions, learning, creativity, all the good stuff.
And physiologically, we can measure this state.
Yeah.
You mentioned RSA before.
Right, respiratory sinus arrhythmia. It sounds technical, but it's basically a measure of your heart rate variability linked to your breathing. When you breathe in, your heart speeds up slightly. When you breathe out, it slows down. IRSA means there's a large, healthy fluctuation between the inhale and exhale heart rates. It indicates that your vagal brake, controlled by the VVC, is strong and responsive.
So high RSA feels like calm, flexible, resilient.
Exactly. You feel grounded, connected, able to handle things. You can access a full range of emotions appropriately. The goal in this state is connection, which in turn reinforces the feeling of safety. It's a positive feedback loop.
Makes sense. Resilience isn't about never getting stressed. It's about being able to return to this VVC state quickly.
Precisely. The flexibility is key.
But what happens when neuroception picks up danger? The environment shifts, someone yells, and that vagal brake comes off. Then we drop down to state 2. The sympathetic nervous system, SNS, mobilization, fight or flight, the classic stress response.
Right. Its function is active defense, immediate coping. Get ready to move, to act, to survive the threat.
And inside the body, what's the cascade look like?
It's a massive shift. The sympathadrenal system kicks into high gear. You get a flood of catecholamines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and stress hormones like cortisol.
Fueling the muscles, right?
Yep. Blood diverts to major muscle groups, heart rate shoots up, breathing gets faster and shallower, digestion pauses. It's all about maximizing energy for immediate action. Physiologically, you see that vagal brake disengage, so parasympathetic tone drops while sympathetic tone skyrockets. Gas pedal to the floor, brakes off.
And this is automatic, like slamming on the brakes in a car. You don't think about it, your body just does it.
Totally automatic. These are ancient, pre-programmed survival responses, often triggered by deeper parts of the brain, like the amygdala before you're conscious. Thinking brain even catches up.
So your body's already reacting while your cortex is still trying to figure out what just happened.
Often, yes. That's why rational thought can be so difficult when you're highly activated. The system prioritizes immediate survival over nuanced thinking.
Okay, so ventral vagal for safety, sympathetic for active defense. But what if fighting or fleeing isn't an option? What if the threat feels overwhelming, inescapable? Then the system resorts to its oldest trick, the bottom of the hierarchy. State 3, the dorsal vagal complex, DVC, shutdown, immobility. This is that primitive reptilian response we talked about earlier.
Exactly. It's the unmyelinated vagus taking over. This is passive coping when active defense fails or seems futile. The system essentially conserves energy by collapsing, feigning death, playing possum, or that feeling of complete helplessness and dissociation.
So this isn't just feeling tired or overwhelmed, it's a distinct physiological state of collapse.
It's a profound collapse. The DVC activation can dramatically slow heart rate and breathing, decrease muscle tone, and even shut down higher cognitive functions. Dissociation, feeling numb, unreal, disconnected from your body or emotions, is a hallmark of this state. The system is trying to minimize damage and conserve resources in the face of overwhelming threat.
Is there a clinical example of this? Like, where can we see this DVC shut down clearly?
The source material actually points to examples like severe fetal distress during labor. Clinicians sometimes observe what's called massive neurogenic bradycardia, a sudden huge drop in the baby's heart rate.
Wow.
This often happens when other signs show diminished vagal influence, meaning low heart rate variability, low RSA. It suggests the baby's system, facing extreme stress and unable to escape, is collapsing into that profound DVC shutdown state. It's a stark illustration of the body's most primitive survival mechanism.
Okay, that's sobering. So the 3 states give us the map: social engagement, VVC, mobilization, SNS, and shutdown, DVC. But you mentioned the radar system navigating this map, neuroception. Let's dig into that.
Right. Neuroception is maybe the most practical takeaway from PVT for everyday life. It's this constant unconscious process where your nervous system is scanning for cues of safety or danger. It happens automatically beneath your conscious awareness.
Like a background app always running. What's it listening for? It's taking in information from 3 streams, really. First, the external environment, loud noises, sudden movements, chaotic scenes. Second, cues from other people or even animals. What's their tone of voice? Is their facial expression open or tense? How are they moving? So someone could be saying nice words, but if their face is stony, my neuroception might pick up danger.
Absolutely. It reads the nonverbal cues often more accurately than the verbal content. And the third stream is your internal environment. What's your own heart rate doing? Is your breathing relaxed or tight? How does your gut feel? My own body's state feeds back into the scan.
Yes. And if the sum total of these signals crosses a certain threshold towards danger, neuroception automatically triggers a shift down the hierarchy into sympathetic activation or even dorsal vagal shutdown.
Okay. And what happens if someone has a history of trauma? Does that mess with the radar? It absolutely recalibrates it. Trauma, especially early or chronic trauma, can essentially tune the autonomic nervous system towards defensiveness. The baseline shifts. It's like the system learns to expect danger, so the threshold for triggering a defensive state becomes much lower.
So people might react strongly to situations that others find neutral.
Exactly. Their neuroception is hypersensitive to potential threats, even subtle ones. The body is primed for mobilization or shutdown.
Is there physiological evidence for this tuning?
Oh, definitely. Studies have shown, for instance, that individuals with histories of abuse often have lower baseline RSA, meaning less vagal brake capacity, less resilience, even when calm. And importantly, after a minor stressor, their RSA takes longer to recover.
So their system is less flexible, slower to return to that safe ventral vagal state.
Right. It gets stuck more easily in a defensive state. The trauma leaves a physiological imprint of readiness for danger.
Now, we've talked about mobilization, fight, flight, and shutdown, collapse. Where does freezing fit in? I know that term comes up a lot in trauma discussions, like Peter Levine's work on the Medusa complex. That's a really important nuance. Freezing isn't quite the same as the DVC shutdown, though they can look similar from the outside. Think of it like this. A major threat triggers a massive sympathetic state 2 mobilization. Huge energy for fight or flight. Okay, ready to act.
But what if you can't act? You're trapped. overpowered. That mobilized energy has nowhere to go.
Hmm.
The Medusa complex idea suggests that in this terrifying moment, the system might essentially slam on both the gas, SNS, and the brakes, DVC, simultaneously or rapidly oscillate, leading to a state of terrified immobility. The energy is still there, trapped in the muscles and tissues, but the movement is thwarted.
So it's like trapped mobilization energy may be followed by a collapse into shutdown.
Often, yes. The system might crash into the DVC state, state 3, to conserve resources after that intense thwarted mobilization. But that trapped sympathetic energy doesn't just disappear. It's thought to be the source of many trauma symptoms. The persistent anxiety, hypervigilance, maybe even chronic pain, as the body is still holding on to that undischarged survival energy.
That makes sense. It's not just an absence of movement, it's a highly charged state of paralysis.
A very charged, often terrifying state.
And it's easy to see how these underlying physiological states, feeling unsafe, mobilized, shut down, would completely derail relationships.
Absolutely. So much of interpersonal conflict is driven by mismatched or threatened autonomic states. The source material highlights how issues around intimacy, for example, often lead to lower relationship satisfaction, precisely because one or both partners' neuroception is constantly detecting threat from the other.
Like the classic anxious avoidant dynamic.
That's a perfect example. The anxious partner, craving closeness, might pursue connection in a way that feels overwhelming or engulfing to the avoidant partner.
Triggering the avoidant sympathetic system need to escape.
Exactly. Mobilization, or maybe even a DVC like emotional withdrawal or shutdown. Meanwhile, the avoidant partner's need for space and distance triggers the anxious partner's fear of abandonment.
Sending them into sympathetic activation panic, protest.
Right. They get locked in this cycle where their nervous systems are essentially perceiving each other as threats. Even if they consciously love each other, it becomes a loop of reciprocal physiological threat, triggering defensive behaviors.
And these behaviors might not even make conscious sense.
Often they don't.
Yeah.
Think about someone with an anxious attachment style who's been hurt before. Even when they want closeness, their threatened nervous system might trigger what are called deactivating strategies.
Like what?
Like unconsciously focusing on the partner's flaws, nitpicking, starting arguments, mentally pulling away. It seems counterintuitive, but physiologically, it's an attempt to create emotional distance, to prepare for the abandonment their system anticipates. It's a desperate subconscious attempt at self-regulation by managing distance when feeling unsafe.
Wow.
The nervous system running the show, even against our conscious desires. Okay, this map is powerful, maybe a bit daunting. The big question then becomes, how do we change course? If trauma or life experience has tuned our system to danger, how do we consciously steer back towards that safe, connected ventral vagal state? This is where the theory becomes really hopeful, I think. The core idea Porges and others emphasize is that healing isn't necessarily about complex interventions from the outside. It's about tapping into the body's own innate capacity to heal and regulate, primarily through the language of sensation.
Sensation, not analyzing the story, but feeling the body.
Exactly. We need to learn to listen to the felt sense. Sensation is described as the language of the oldest parts of our brain, the instinctual, survival-oriented parts where these autonomic states originate. Thinking is slow, analysis comes later, sensation is immediate present moment feedback.
So tuning into things like warmth, tingling, tightness, heaviness.
Yes, noticing these physical sensations without judgment, without needing to understand why they're there, and critically, without trying to immediately push them away or fix them.
That's hard, though. Our instinct is usually to distract ourselves from discomfort or power through it.
It is hard, especially in our fast-paced culture.
Yeah.
But that very pushing away or ignoring is often what keeps the defensive states stuck. The body's natural rhythm for processing and discharging the survival energy is often much slower than our cognitive pace. It requires patience.
So if we just notice the sensation, what happens?
The fascinating thing is that when sensations are simply allowed, noticed with curiosity, they almost always begin to shift and transform on their own. That trapped energy starts to move. It might come out as trembling, shaking, heat, tears, yawning, a sudden deep breath. The body knows how to complete the cycle, to find its way back to equilibrium if we can just create the space and safety for it to do so.
Allowing the physiological process to complete itself.
Precisely.
Okay, so attending to sensation helps the body discharge stuck energy. But what about actively signaling safety to the system? Is there a direct way to tell our neuroception, hey, it's okay now?
Yes, and one of the most powerful tools we have for that is self-compassion.
Self-compassion. How does that work physiologically?
It's thought to directly engage the body's care system. This system, associated with oxytocin release and VVC activation, is evolutionarily designed to make us feel safe, connected, and soothed. Think of a mother comforting a child. When you offer yourself kindness and understanding, especially when you're suffering, you're essentially activating that internal soothing system.
So it actively counteracts the threat response.
It seems to. It deactivates the threat defense pathways, SNS and DVC, and stimulates the VVC safety pathways.
And we have data on this. It's not just a nice idea.
No, it's measurable. Research shows that practicing self-compassion leads to physiological changes like lower cortisol levels, that key stress hormone linked to sympathetic activation.
Okay.
And importantly, it leads to increased heart rate variability, higher RSA. That's our marker for increased parasympathetic activity via the VVC, signaling greater calm, resilience, and safety. Treating yourself with kindness literally shifts your physiology towards the ventral vagal state.
That's powerful, but I imagine some listeners might think self-compassion is just about being soft or passive. What about when you need to deal with genuine threats or difficult situations, like setting a boundary?
That's a crucial distinction. We need both tender compassion and fierce compassion. Tender compassion is what we usually think of. It's about meeting our pain, our mistakes, our struggles with warmth, kindness, and acceptance, holding ourselves gently. It stops us from adding self-criticism or panic on top of the initial pain.
It soothes the immediate distress.
Yes, but sometimes soothing isn't enough. We also need fierce compassion. This is the protective, empowering side of compassion. It's the energy that says, this isn't okay, or I deserve better, or this needs to change.
So it fuels action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fierce compassion provides the courage and motivation to protect ourselves, to set boundaries, to speak up, maybe to leave a harmful situation. It's about acting in the world from a place of valuing our own well-being. We need both the tenderness to heal and the fierceness to protect and change.
Tender and fierce. Okay. So we use sensation to allow discharge, self-compassion to signal safety and motivate action. Once we start accessing that ventral vagal state more often, our thinking brain comes back online more reliably. How do we use that clearer thinking to make safety more of a habit?
Right. When the VVC is engaged, you have better access to your prefrontal cortex planning, reasoning, complex thought. This is where we can consciously leverage principles of behavior change to support ongoing regulation. Think about habit formation, like the ideas from James Clear. Specifically, make it easy and make it satisfying.
Okay, how do you make feeling safe easy?
You reduce the friction for regulation practices. If you want to practice mindful breathing, don't just vaguely intend to do it. Make the cue obvious. Maybe set a reminder on your phone. Put a sticky note where you'll see it, link it to an existing habit like your morning coffee, make the path to the regulating behavior as smooth as possible.
Remove the obstacles.
Exactly. You're using your conscious mind to design an environment that cues safety and regulation, making it more likely to happen automatically over time.
And make it satisfying. How does that apply, especially when overcoming that DVC helplessness?
This is vital. Feeling helpless or powerless is a core feature of the shutdown state. So we need to actively cultivate feelings of competence and agency. Setting clear, achievable goals is key here.
Even small goals.
Especially small goals initially. Define something specific you want to accomplish, maybe related to self-care, work, or relationships. Achieving these goals, no matter how small, provides concrete evidence of your capability. It directly counters the narrative of helplessness.
So success breeds success, reinforcing that feeling of agency.
Precisely. Each accomplishment, however minor, provides a little dopamine hit, a feeling of satisfaction. It reinforces that you can influence your state and your life. This makes the regulated, capable state feel inherently rewarding, which helps solidify it as the preferred way of being. You're building self-efficacy, which is the antidote to shutdown.
Okay, this really provides a roadmap from understanding the biology to actively shaping our experience.
That's the power of PBT, I think. It gives you the why behind your feelings and reactions and practical tools to work with your biology, not against it.
All right, let's try to wrap this up. This deep dive has really illuminated the nervous system's hierarchy. We have the ventral vagal state, our safe, connected social engagement system at the top.
The goal state.
Then, if threat is detected, we drop into the sympathetic state mobilization, fight or flight, the gas pedal.
Active defense. And if that fails or isn't possible, the oldest system kicks in. Dorsal vagal collapse, shutdown, immobility, conservation, the primitive brake.
And navigating all of this is neuroception, that constant subconscious radar scanning for safety and danger.
Yeah, the underlying mechanism. I think the biggest takeaway for me really is what you said at the start. Our physiological state literally limits what's possible for us emotionally and behaviorally at any given moment. It truly does.
Yeah.
Understanding this hierarchy isn't just interesting biology, it's empowering. Knowing which state you're in gives you information. It helps you understand why you feel stuck or reactive or numb. And knowing the tools tracking sensation, applying self-compassion gives you agency to gently guide yourself back towards safety and connection. Biology isn't destiny here, it's information you can use.
Okay, fantastic. Now, for a final provocative thought, let's connect this deep dive into PVT with something from the world of decision making. Cognitive psychology research, like work on the paradox of choice or cognitive dissonance, often shows that we humans tend to avoid making difficult decisions, especially those involving trade-offs. We often prefer a quick, easy answer or just avoid the choice altogether to reduce that uncomfortable feeling of uncertainty or conflict.
Right, that mental discomfort of holding conflicting ideas or facing tough choices. So here's a question for you to consider. When your nervous system is already biased towards threat, when you're frequently tipped into sympathetic hyperarousal or dorsal vagal shutdown, you're already experiencing significant physical discomfort, that visceral feeling of being unsafe. And the body is already distressed.
How much does that underlying physiological distress amplify the cognitive dissonance you feel